Yo, what's up guys, it's me, Paradox Gaming here, back with another video. In this video, part 3 of Godsplashs, we are going to be going over some discords to get free splashes, as well as some other tricks and tips. Okay, so we're here for part 1 of Godsplashs part 3, where I shall be showing off some discords where you can get free splashes. Now, I shall link there'll be links for these two in the description below. So you've got Godsplash, probably does around 10 splashes per day. Probably the biggest skyblock Godsplash Discord. You have paid splashes and trades somewhere. I think it's down here. Yeah, trades and advertisements and whatnot. It's a good place. And then another one is Splash Express. They probably do around 5. And then you have all of these ones that probably do 1 each. Now, the way I got all of them is I got into Splash Express, which you can do by my link in the description. And then you just join all of the partners, which all do maybe 1 or 2 splashes a day. And then that's how I get all of these. And combined, you can get up to 15 splashes a day. I mean, you won't get into all of them, but it's a lot of pots quite frequently. So I shall link these two in the description. And then if we go back to Minecraft, and this is, so that's the end of part 1. So that's all the discords to get free splashes in. I don't have one on me right now, but you know what, there hasn't been one in quite a while. Well, there has been one, but yeah, there hasn't been any that I managed to get into. And then the second thing is, if we go to here, let me come over here. So, for when you're doing your own splashes, so this is part 2, tip number 1. When you're starting off, or if you just want to do one for just your guild or a free splash, you can do what's called demi splashes. So this is my Excel document, again linked in part 2, but I shall also link it in this video. And you have all the pots that you have for a Godsplash. Now this isn't exactly the best Godsplash, I need to update this one, but the rest seem quite good. So you've got for example, this end splash that I brewed with you in part 2 as well. And it basically gives you what you want for Z-Lock grinding. So it gives you all the speed pots, some extra damage, some magic finding in case you're doing dragons or whatnot, and some combat XP. So that's about what you want, but you might want to add some other stuff. And then I've got Cheap Splash, which is basically a Godsplash, but you make it 20 minutes and it makes it so much cheaper. You can have a Godsplash for 20 minutes for 100k, whereas a normal Godsplash cost upwards of 1 mil. So that's quite good. You just use enchanted redstone and glowstone. They're slightly weaker pots, and they only last for 20 minutes rather than an hour. But 3 times 20-minute ones is 300k rather than 1 mil. Amazing for your guild, not so good because less people will buy it. And then cheap end splash is the same, and then end speed splash, which is very similar but slightly different. So yeah, you got those, and then you got other ones like foraging splashes. People who are doing foraging advertise them in park lobbies, and you will get money. So then you got all the speed pots, haste, and foraging XP. Then you have fishing splash, combat critical, because of course you're killing the monsters, as well as stuff like fishing XP, magic find, pet luck, and other stuff like strength and speed. Because I mean, I wouldn't do much more than that because you don't want to be going too fast, but just having rabbit and speed is just helpful at all times. And then you have combat splashes, so you only have stuff for combat. You leave out some of the other stuff, and it's more of a thing only. So it's like got all the speeds, the combat XP, the magic find, the rabbit, resistance, speed, strength, and stun. However, there's no need for some of the ones, like there's no need for haste, there's no need for foraging and fishing XP. So yeah, that's just another alternative. These alternatives are normally you'll only get like 12 people for them, but because they cost so much less, and you can use enchanted glowstone dust instead of lamps, Sometimes I'd use lamps. So for example, for this fishing splash, you might want combat XP 4, but there's no need to have crit 4 because it won't help you a ton. Just like you'll only have strength 5, because strength 8 is like 250k for 3 pots, whereas strength 5 is like, I don't know, 20k to make. And there's no need to have high level speed and rabbit, so it's same for them. But then for pet luck and magic find, you're going to want the maxed because it's increasing your output from fishing rather than just increasing your damage and killing the mob slightly quicker. So just be smart about it. If you're going to do something for your guild, that'll also be really good. So that's tip number 1. If I then go to this, so we are then back in game, and then some other tips for doing splashes. So if you're going to do, what's the last one? So I did the end splash. Again, that was with these pots. I only needed 12 people and I only charged people 40k because it doesn't cost me anywhere near as much to make. And yeah, that's just a good thing. Then, advertising. So, spaces that you will advertise. So, somebody's asking me for a splash. See, proves I do them myself. I shall just tell him that I'm recording, and then I shall see you guys to show you some good advertising areas. Okay, so advertising tactics. So, what's best way to advertise is if you're doing a Godsplash, what I would do is go through the hubs, and then I would go to the end lobby and then switch between the end lobby and the spider's den, because a number of people will advertise there because that's where most endgame players are. Another way to advertise once you've done the main hubs is go between the dungeon hub and the hub, because it's where you find the most people. Or you can just go through the listed dungeon hubs, that also works. Now, if you're doing a specific splash, like if you're doing an end splash, what you should probably do is do the main hub, so like any that have over 70 players, 60 or 70. So right now all of them do. But sometimes you'll have some that, for example, Hub 28 only has 12 people. There's no point going to that. Sometimes that you can go up to a lot more. So you want to, if like there's not even 50 people in, and you're doing a specific splash like an end splash, you're way better off advertising in end lobbies. Now, if you're doing a foraging splash, there is no point advertising in the main hubs apart from maybe hub 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now the best place to do that is foraging. So although you won't be going through the mega hubs, the best thing to do is go all the way over here to the gate between the parks and the main hub island. I mean, before it probably was harder, like ages ago there used to be the park island used to be split up. Now that would have been really annoying to advertise, but now you can just travel to the park island, advertise here, type your message in chat, and then you go back and advertise the other way. Now, next tip. Get somebody from your guild or somebody that you know to advertise for you, especially if it's a full Godsplash where you're going to find lots of people. Now, the reason for this is because if you have somebody advertise for you, they can do all the hubs, and then while people come to your island, that person is still advertising, and you can be accepting money and showing the pots to your customers. Now, that's just what I would do, but I would say do it because it really helps. And also, but then what you can do is you can give them the splash for free, or maybe give them some money. Now also with the discords that I have shown you can advertise your own splashes. In some of them you have to get the rank first, I think in almost all of them. But that normally just means you sign some agreements and say you do a certain number of splashes a day, as well as occasionally doing a free splash. I think in the big one, the one that has like 3,000 or 4,000 members, it will ask you to do 3 free splashes. So yeah, that's another way that you can advertise. Now, the worst thing you can do is, let's say you're doing a Godsplash, is you just go to a random hub. Now that's because random hubs, half the time you'll have private lobbies with 2 or 3 people. Then the other half of the time, you won't get more than 20 players. So this one's also private. And sometimes you find more privates than other. There's no point advertising to 2 people. You're way better off. And now I've got a 0-person lobby. You're way better off going to the end or even the park or somewhere. But ideally you want to be a combat place, because more people, the majority of pots are for combat. Now there are still others, like fishing ones, and for example, they're called demi splashes. They're the ones I showed you earlier. Now there you could advertise in certain spots. Now my final tip for you lot is work with the events. So it's better to do fishing splashes in the Jerry event, because people are fishing in the Jerry ponds. Now you can then also advertise at that place. Now it's also a great idea to do Godsplashs just before the Spooky Festival. And yeah, so work with the festivals. They can really help your splash business. And another way you can do is you can charge slightly more and start the splash 5 or 10 minutes before after the Spooky Festival has started, in case they've missed their Godsplash. Charge more, get the same amount of people, more profit. So yeah, also I would advise trying to get somebody to brew your pots for you if you're like an low alchemy level, like under Alch 25 or 30. But it's really easy to level your alchemy up with enchanted sugarcane. But other people have done tutorials on that. I won't go over that, or it's quite self-explanatory. But get other people, because if you're going to do a full Godsplash, buy your own materials, pay 100k, which there's somebody that does it on the Discord. But the trick is to make sure that don't go to get random people, because people say they're out 50, which is what you want, makes the potions the longest. They'll say they're out 50, they're not, they'll just take your materials. Now there's 2 ways to check. You can use sky.lea.moe, which I shall bring up just about now. Sky.lea.moe. Slow at typing. And then it's just this. You enter in somebody's username. So you've got all the YouTubers at the top. So, for example, you've got Technoblade. You can see he's got so many pigs. But that's Technoblade for you. But you can see his, here. So right at the top, you can see he has Alchemy 50. So if Technoblade somehow asks you to said yes, but I mean, he wouldn't. But if somebody asks you, you can search their username, and then you can check the skills. If they're out 50, then you might be able to trust them. If they're not out 50, don't trust them. They'll be taking your stuff. Anyway, that's just a tip, and because if you're doing demi splashes, it matters a lot less. Anyway, that's it from me. Bye for now. See ya.